Okay, so guys, unfortunately, I got sick once again, where honestly, it kind of sucks because you would think like, you know what, springtime, there's a good chance I don't get sick, and somehow I still get sick. But either way, we're going to sit down and finally cover Cable versus Nate Gray. Yes, X-Man versus Cable. This is a storyline I kind of been waiting for a while. Like, as we went through our coverage over the X-Men, I kept wondering like, okay, when are these two characters finally going to meet? And they finally do in this three-part story arc, but they're also fighting against another character known as Exodus. Now, for me personally, this makes the battle even better with him being there because it's the 1990s. When it came to Marvel, they were really trying their best to push this character out more when it came to X-Men comics. And honestly, the opening pages for issue number 30 is a good example of that because we do pick up the Black Knight and also a few other knights 800 years in the past. Now, the Black Knight does not really play a major role in this storyline. It's just him and a few other knights walking by this forbidden area. And so as we jump over to the present day, we do learn that forbidden area was locked away because Exodus was inside there for 800 years. And so as we get over to the present day, it's him now going back to where he came from to hopefully regain the power that he had lost in the last few storylines that we had covered. But now we have to transition over to Cable. Now for Cable, he's kind of nearby Exodus, but he's not looking for him. He's looking for Nate Gray because for Nate Gray, he's on the radar for a lot of different people. The Sugar Man, Dark Beast, Blaquesmith, Cable, the X-Men. And so for Cable, his main goal is to hopefully find Nate Gray to help out Nate Gray. Now for Blaquesmith, who's Cable's close friend from the far future, he believes that Nate should die. Now we'll explain why later on in this video, but while you have Cable getting closer and closer to Nate Gray, he begins to kind of connect his mind to Nate Gray's mind, but not on purpose. It's complete accident. But with that happening, you now have Cable kind of look into the past of Nate Gray, but being very confused because he has no idea that Nate is from a different reality, the Age of Apocalypse reality. And the same thing goes for Nate Gray as well, because for Nate, it's him now kind of reliving different moments from Cable's past as well, seeing all these different flashbacks. Now, for Nate Gray, he does try his best to stop what he is seeing, but luckily for Nate, he has somebody nearby him, and that would be Trinity. Now, for Trinity, Nate had helped her in our last video escape from the Marauders, because for Trinity, she had a hard time controlling her ability. You see, for her, she has the ability to kind of absorb the energy of dying people and turn that energy into a blast. But she had a hard time controlling that powers. Now, when it came to Sinister, he helped her. As we all know, if you belong to Mr. Sinister, he will continue to use you until he feels like you're no longer good use for him for anything else. And so she wanted to escape, and she did, thanks to Nate Gray. Now, with all that being said, she realized that Nate just went through something very major. He's weak now, but for Nate Gray, something is calling out to him. And so they continue to travel throughout the mountains to save areas that where Cable and Exodus both are at. But this is where I kind of want to transition back over to Cable because you do have Cable now meet up with Blaquesmith. Now, here's the thing, because for Blaquesmith, the reason why he wants to kill off Nate Gray, because he looks at Nate Gray as a mistake, somebody or something that should not be around at all. That matter of fact, it should be completely erased from this timeline because there should be only one Cable in this timeline, and that's you. Now, yes, there is Strife, but Strife is a clone. This person right here is not Strife, which means this person is a huge mistake that should not be in this reality. If he is, it could cause problems for us down the road in our timeline, but also for your plan that was laid out for you by the Ascani. And so it's Blaquesmith saying, Nate Gray gotta go. But getting back over to Nate Gray, you have Nate find one of the many bases that were left behind by Cable over the years in this timeline. And so for Cable, this is one of his homes. And Nate Gray's kind of like, why in the world did I come here for? And you didn't have Cable walk into the room and kind of explain like, hey, the reason why you came here is all because of your and I connection, because we are just alike. Now, let's not forget, for Nate Gray, he was created by Mr. Sinister back in the age of Apocalypse reality, but also he was aged up at a very fast pace. And so, unfortunately, the dude never truly learned how to be a person, how to handle his feelings. And so for him, when he sees Cable, he's kind of like, great, you're somebody else that's trying to use me. You're saying that we are just alike, but I don't believe you. Now, once you have Nate try to, or he does, connect his mind to Cable's mind, he kind of realized what Cable said is true, but at the same time realize there's some kind of connection with Cable to Apocalypse. And let's not forget, for Nate Gray, his reality, Apocalypse had ruled over North America, but it was Nate Gray helping out the X-Men defeat Apocalypse in that reality. And so for him, he's kind of like, what is your connection to Apocalypse? Now, while you have Nate Gray doing the Cable, you didn't have Blaquesmith say, hey, we got bigger problems coming in right now. But for Cable, he truly can't focus on the other problem at the moment. And so you have Cable trying his best to just reach out to Nate Gray. Like, hey, I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to actually help you because we are literally the same person, just from different realities. But Nate Gray is not trying to listen. He believes, once again, there's something going on behind the scenes when it comes to Cable looking for him. And so you have the two characters trying to talk, but you didn't have Nate Gray cause a huge explosion. And so to close on the first chapter, that other problem that Blaquesmith said earlier, yeah, that was Exodus, who just arrived as well. And so as we dive into X-Men issue number 14, it's really more Cable waking up after the explosion. Now for Cable, he is completely worried about Nate Gray. Like, yes, Nate Gray is really powerful. Nate Gray is what Cable could have been if Cable did not have the techno-organic virus. But here's the problem. Exodus absorbs energy. And so for Nate Gray, yes, he has all that energy inside of him, but all of that energy he's using right now is just being absorbed by Exodus. Now, here is another problem, because with Cable being nearby, their minds are connected to one another. And so for Nate Gray, it's kind of like fighting two things at once. A major headache because of Cable, but also fighting against a powerful character like Exodus. Now for a brief, I say literally a brief moment, we get reminded about Madeline Pryor, because remember, Madeline Pryor was madly in love with Nate Gray when she first appeared or reappeared back in this series. And so for Madeline, after meeting Nate Gray, she was taken away by Celine. And so it's her just thinking about Nate Gray and missing him. That's really it. I mean, there is a point in this part where she does cut herself, but she doesn't realize she did cut herself until somebody tells her, and then she feels the pain in her hand. And she's kind of confused on why in the world did she not notice that she cut herself. But then we kind of transition back over to the battle, right? Now, the rest of X-Men issue number 14 is really more us just seeing Nate Gray fight against Exodus. And you have Cable trying his best to get back in the battle, but to also kind of help out Nate Gray. But for Nate Gray, it's like, no, I fight alone. I don't fight with nobody at all, which technically is not true, because in the past he did fight alongside with other people, but like whatever. But either way, it's Nate saying like, no, I'm gonna go ahead and fight on my own when it comes to Exodus. And so for Nate, he kind of realized what he could do here, which is just keep feeding the energy he puts out to Exodus, because at some point Exodus can't take all the energy that Nate Gray is pushing out. And so it gets to that point where you do have Nate Gray just feed too much energy to Exodus and completely wipes him out. And so you didn't have Nate open up a crack in the earth, throws Exodus in that crack in the earth and closes it. And so for the time being, Exodus had just been put on the back burner. But after doing that, you didn't have Nate Gray shift his focus back onto Cable. Like, okay, he's done, now back to you, because there's no way that you are me. And so as we dive into the final chapter of the storyline, we're now kind of getting to the idea that it's just Nate Gray releasing all the power side of him all at once. And so you have Blaquesmith say, we literally have to kill him right now, because if we don't, it could do some serious damage across the world. I'm meaning like frying people brains across the world. If there are psychics across the world, they're going to feel his energy. Now, you have Blaquesmith go ahead and try to kill off Nate Gray, and Nate Gray puts the man down quick and fast. And so for Cable, he's kind of like, okay, Blaquesmith said I have to kill the guy off, but at the same time, it's just a boy. What is wrong with us? Why are we trying to kill off a young boy who's still trying his best to discover how to be a person, how to be a mutant? But Cable's right, because if you are a psychic or somehow able to pick up on the energy of Nate Gray, you are feeling that energy in your brain. Now, Holocaust, he's first. And for Holocaust, he comes from the same reality as Nate Gray does, Age of Apocalypse. He recognizes the energy. He's kind of like, that guy right there is my enemy. He's here as well too. This is a problem. But besides that, you have Psylocke, Jean Grey, Cyclops, not Cyclops, Charles Xavier. But either way, they're all feeling that energy. Now, let's not forget, because in an earlier storyline, the preludes that led into this storyline, it was really more Blaquesmith wanting the X-Men not to know about Nate Gray, or really not have a meaning about him. Because for Blaquesmith, he wanted to make sure that Cable was the one to handle Nate Gray. Nobody else, not the X-Men, X-Force, just Cable. And so when they came together for a meeting, everyone came there to talk more about X-Men. Blaquesmith said, nope, y'all came here for the legacy virus. Cable, let's go. But now it's Jean Grey and Charles Xavier beginning to remember what actually happened. And so now they're freaking out, because now it all comes down to Cable. If Cable fails, there goes everyone across the world, possibly. But as we get back over to the two Nates here, you do have Cable begin to realize, like, okay, for me to actually fight against Nate Gray, I have to use my powers. But for Cable, it's completely different. Most of his powers are being used to keep the techno-organic virus at bay. And so for Cable, he's kind of like, I have to let go some of that power to allow myself to use that power instead to fight against Nate Gray, to get into his mind. Now, this is Nate Gray saying, like, you don't understand though, Cable. I am dying. My powers are killing me. But it's Cable saying, dude, shut up. Like, I'm just like you, just older. But the thing is, I'm dying a different way than you are. You know, you're dying because, well, your body was made like that. But for me, I have this virus that's just going through my body at a very slow pace, thanks to me using the power that I have. Now for Trinity, again, she has the ability to figure out when someone is dying, feel their energy. And so she's like, hey, his powers is killing him. Cable, you gotta stop Nate Gray. And so you have Cable being able to just do it. And this kind of leads into the ending of the storyline, because you do have Cable begin to try to fix the mind of Nate Gray to hopefully save his life. But while doing that, Blaquesmith says, hey, you gotta kill him off now. But for Cable, he no longer trusts Blaquesmith. And matter of fact, that trust was very thin. But in the preludes that led in the storyline, it was Cable realizing that Blaquesmith knew about Nate Gray, but didn't tell Cable at all. And so for Cable, it's kind of like, I cannot trust you. And now I kind of realize, if somebody's out there you think is an enemy, then most likely they can become an ally for me. But either way, it's Cable just fixing the mind of Nate Gray. Now, there was a point where he did push himself too far, and he could have died, but he did live. And the book kind of, actually, there's still one more page we got to talk about. Because now we jump over to a character known as Post. Now, here's the thing, because this character does first appear over in X-Men issue number 50. But the thing is, we have not really covered that issue just yet. But just know that this character right here is currently working with Onslaught. So again, another small hint of the idea of the next crossover to come for the X-Men down the road. But this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.